Well, thank you so much, Emma and Mark and the whole team from Nimbus for inviting me to come and speak with you tonight. I'll try to keep strictly to the 10 minutes. I hope someone will yank me if I go over. But what I'm not going to do is show you a bunch of corporate slides. I have two, one at the beginning and one at the end, and the rest I wrote myself. So you'll see that in the quality, perhaps, of some of the presentation. But I have some ideas I wanted to share with you. This one is just so that you can get hold of me if you think my ideas are, stink or they're fantastic, and we can discuss that. And I'd really love to engage with anybody here, obviously here and on Twitter and elsewhere. And ultimately, I was really excited. I really enjoyed, I think we all did, David's kickoff to the session. I think there were a bunch of themes in there that really resonated with me. So for those of you that don't know what Yammer is, we provide an enterprise social network capability. So it's basically social network communications models like Facebook, like Twitter, but now for companies to use, for public sector organizations to use, for not-for-profit organizations to use as well. And we started out of Silicon Valley. Our founding investor was Peter Thiel, that David mentioned. Our CEO and co-founder was David Sachs, who was straight out of PayPal. And when we started the European business, there was me and two other guys in someone's living room. And we've grown since then. We found an office with a small desk that we rented by the hour, grew to another office, then took the one next door and the one under that, and then knocked the walls down and grew from there. Now we have 80 people in London writing code, selling the software, serving our customers, focused on customer success. So we've had our own kind of Silicon Valley startup experience. And what I took from David's story was actually that there is extraordinary power in small people doing transformational things, or not small people, but small numbers of people doing transformational things. And there's some amazing examples of world-changing ideas. But what I also see in my everyday life is small groups of people inside of big companies making company-changing ideas or departmental-changing ideas, and thousands of these, thousands of small improvements that actually help the organization just be slightly more frictionless in the everyday work that they do. So with that, I was just going to throw up a few ideas, and some of these, just a quick show of hands, how many folks here are from IT departments or related to sort of technology specifically? Okay, so quite a good number. Maybe HR or sort of more people side of things. So smaller number. Sales? Anyone from sales? Boo. I'm in sales, it's okay. What about folks from sort of an operational or manufacturing or a process orientation? A few dotted around as well. Interesting. So quite technology focused, but a smattering from all over. So one of the things that we're really seeing is that technology is less and less the purview of the experts and less the purview of the IT department that sort of say, this is how it must be done. What we're increasingly seeing through cloud and mobile and other ways in which technology is becoming super accessible is it's actually the users that are going out and self-selecting the technologies themselves. And that's quite interesting because we're seeing now that the VP of sales or the VP of marketing or the chief of HR or the head of manufacturing operations are impatient, and they're going out and they're sort of moving ahead of IT sometimes. So we have to figure out how we can help IT be really successful in that context and help the business move at the pace that it needs to move. So I somewhat cheekily have defined 3 phases of IT maturity. The first one, which is the monkey sort of crouching down, is we did it. We rolled it out. Thank God for that. That was hard work, getting that project out. The success was defined as we finished. The second one is success being defined as, well, there's people using it. We can measure how many people have logged into this thing, and we think that number is good. And the third one is value. The third one is, well, actually, we're making a difference. What's in it for me? To Peter's points around Yammer at Aeon, where the users don't yet understand why they're using it, so they don't, and they shouldn't, until they understand why they should start to use it. So I sort of think that in these first 2 categories that the outcomes are defined by technology. We installed it, and we counted the number of people that logged in. And I'd put maybe ERP or even email solutions into that bucket, basically compliance solutions. The user doesn't have a choice. They have to use the corporate email system. And it has an intranets, the $4 million lunch menu, as I sort of cheekily call it, or the $4 million people finder, and we've all probably been responsible for some of those. But indirect or loose influence on the bottom line. And then on the right, it's all sorts of technologies, and the point is here it's a business outcome that we're trying to measure. Have we made a measurable impact to revenue or profit? That's kind of how I think things are actually shifting, and increasingly those of us that work in IT are actually challenged to think on the right side of this picture because the left doesn't cut it anymore, and I think that's reasonably obvious. In terms of organizational vitality, I think there's some interesting concepts here, and actually you talked about some of this in terms of, wow, the projects that I work on have to be inspiring. There's diminishing returns in what we can do with our brand or our assets or our property portfolio or what we do in optimizing manufacturing processes. It's just a diminishing law of returns in the optimization that you can drive there. But of course, it is the people that collaborate, that are empowered, and then drive transformational change that bring you breakthrough ideas. And again, those can be small. It can be how to more effectively write an RFP response. It could be how to notice that actually 3 departments are doing similar work and sort of reduce the level of overlap that's going on. And that happens in companies with 100 people and 100,000 people and 500,000 people. So this is where I think, Clive Woodward, for those of you that are rugby fans, talks about 100 things done 1% better, driving transformational change, and I think there's real power in that idea. We talk about the Big Four a lot. My sort of idea for you, if you're interested in your thoughts on it, are that people think about the 4 big trends, which I think are real, by the way, like were real last year, then the year before that, and they're real today, and they'll probably be real tomorrow. But I think they think about those in terms of maybe the wrong criteria. I think actually it's all about speed. So people talk about big data and they think I have to make the right decision. I'm now enabled to make the right decision. I can pick which 50% of my marketing was wasted. In cloud, they think about TCO and infrastructure and evergreen, and I don't have to worry about it anymore. And I can move my IT budget from the 80% keeping the lights on more to innovation, that sort of thing. Social, it's about collaboration, and mobile, it's squeezing that extra half an hour of productivity out of our staff or ourselves. I think those things are true, but I think the really powerful thing for the business is speed. Is where are we going? Are we getting there fast enough, and are we there first? And I think that matters regardless of the size of the company or the department that you work in. So what social can do is provide a sort of lubrication for that to happen. People as middleware. It's the most effective. We are the most effective source of middleware inside organizations. I'll give you an example. I often open with this. So today, some of you are Twittering. Not enough, by the way, but some of you are Twittering. Who am I to say? But anyway, some of us are Twittering. How will you share what you've learned today from people like David with your peers in the organization when you go back to the places that you work? Some of you will write a blog. Some of those will be read. You might get some responses. Most of us probably won't share. What we won't do, I think, is write an email and send it to hundreds of people. It's sort of just not a natural way of doing it. So what we think social technologies enable us to do is actually just to much more frictionlessly share what it is that we're doing and we're learning in ways that other people can take advantage of. So my second thought is that companies, software companies and companies in other industries have traditionally worked on longer-term timeframes, 5-year plans, 3-year roadmaps, annual budget cycles, that sort of thing. And what it means is that you have these long, sort of straight paths, and then you reach an inflection point, and then you change direction, and you go straight in another direction for quite a long period of time, and you go like this. So the challenge with that, of course, is that the world around us is changing very rapidly, as we know. And what some of the smaller organizations that David talked about and companies like ourselves are doing are trying to narrow the time horizon down to days. So we'll drop code twice a week. And what that enables us to do is A/B test. So when we release features, we've A/B tested them on our free users. So if this side of the room were free and this side were paying on you guys, we'd experiment and we'd show one of you a font that was 2 pixels slightly to the left or larger or a different color or a different word than the others, much like the Obama campaign did. We do that. And then to you guys that are paying, we pick the most successful result and we roll it out to you. So we can do that because we make incremental changes, and I think that applies to management styles, leadership styles, decision making, so on. So the organization that adapts earliest in the highest number of increments will compound an advantage over its rivals and accelerate away. And my point is that it's a differential. So if you have a sort of exponential differential in terms of how quickly you make decisions and how quickly you make changes, whether on a departmental or company basis. And here's the thing. We can do this. We don't have to wait for the chief X officer to make this decision for us. We can do this today. And then we'll accelerate away from our competition. Last couple of points I wanted to make was that I think that I see over time that software complexity has basically come down. So if you think about how software was written 15 years ago, it was really written by nerds for nerds. And today with the iPad and the apps and so on, they're written by designers for normal people, like some of us. And our ability to consume these things is also going up. I mean, 10 years ago, we all stared at phones a little suspiciously. We probably, 5 years ago, we thought apps really not for me. But today, we're all kind of doing it. So what I think we're starting to see is that these things are converging, and actually it's about connected experiences. So it means that you should be able to, whether it's a game that you're picking up or work that you're doing, move from mobile to tablet to device to computer to browser, from browser to browser, and still have a consistent experience and be able to work in a manner that suits you. So that is powerful because social does underpin that in that it's about relevancy. So my communications feed, whether it's in email or social or otherwise, should provide me with a notification that is different, or a relevance algorithm that is different based on whether I'm using a phone or a tablet or a browser. It should be different based on my location. It should be different based on what floor of a building I'm on, using new chips that have altimeters built into them. So that it should be able to suggest to me that actually on of my task list that I've prioritized in this way, well, as I happen to be in the same coffee queue as the person with whom I need to do, to reorientate the task list. So social provides you with the richest graph of information around connections between me and you and the documents that you follow and that you create and the interest areas that we all have to enable us to provide that relevance algorithm. And then sort of final Georg Ell slide and then the last corporate one. Borderless organizations, we've talked a bit about this already today. Everything, maybe you can't read it, suppliers, partners, regulators, customers, competitors, obviously could go on. The point is there are overlaps, and we see amazing examples of this. So whether when we're working with pharmaceuticals and they're doing, using Yammer networks to do research with universities, to do research with other pharmaceuticals, we are working with INSEAD, the business school, around their staff and students to promote learning using Yammer networks internally, and then connecting their alumni through an external network. And that's interesting because their students are both their customers and their product. So now alumni being connected through one of these networks. And then we see, in retail, for example, we see supply chain being connected up between stores and people providing potatoes or whatever it might be. The point is that this is business at the speed of thought, to sort of quote Bill Gates, actually. So, last Georg slide. As you can tell, this one's not a corporate slide. So my thinking with this is that organizations, if you think about performance graph, they have these normal distributions, right, in how people do their jobs. And we tend to focus an awful lot of our time at either end. We build leadership programs for these folks, and we put them in silos and on pedestals. And we tell them how wonderful they are, and we ask them to share their learning. But really, most of that is concentrated at this end. And then at the other end, of course, we have poor performers or possibly malicious agents. And actually, we write policy documents 70 pages long that nobody reads in order to cater for the legal ramifications of dealing with those folks. And I've seen some of these, by the way, it's true. I haven't read them. And the challenge is this fat middle. Some of us represent companies with hundreds of thousands of people in them, and there are hundreds of thousands of people out there who are, I think, not as well served in their ability to self-organize. So that's something I'd like to promote. So with that, if you're interested in learning more, you can go to our website, sign up for free, and we have 2 events, one in London, one in Amsterdam, coming up ourselves at the end of the month. And I thank you very much for your time and attention.